Are you enjoying the Mindset Playground? Well, visit my website at louannehunt.ca. That's louannehunt.ca and join the Insiders Club and be the first to know about all of the upcoming podcasts, the guests on my show, some tips and tricks on how to live a great life from the inside out, and of course, the Clarity Keys method, which is coming up in October. I can't wait to see you there. Sign up today. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mindset Playground, where you're going to get your daily dose of positivity. And I'm your host, LouAnne Hunt. And I am so glad that you have joined me today on the playground because I have the perfect person who is going to come and talk to me about playing on the playground and, how the merry-go-round just kind of spins your life into the next direction. And this is going to be a very pivotal podcast today. So I'm so glad that you're here to listen to this and to see this as well. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to a very old, near and dear friend. Well, he's not old, but we go back many years. And his name is Elvis Stojko. Elvis, welcome to the Mindset Playground. How are you doing today?
Doing great. It's so wonderful to see you. It's been a while since we connected, so this is so great. Thanks for reaching out.
Well, of course, Elvis. I'm so excited that you have agreed to do this podcast with me. And I know that this will not be the one and only. So I will hunt you down. Anyway, so a little bit of background about us. Actually, I was Elvis's media coordinator back in 1995 when I was 12. But we've worked together. We worked together a lot then, and we're still working together. So that's really great. And I'm here to talk to you about your life pivoting, Elvis, and reinventing yourself because you are definitely somebody who has reinvented yourself over and over. So, the one thing that I do want to talk about is the very beginning. When, how did the whole skating thing come into play? Like, what started that?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, they loved skating. They both came to Canada in the 50s. My mom was a 56er after the war. She came from Hungary. My dad coming from Slovenia, former Yugoslavia, starting a new life here, and both having background in arts. My dad being a singer, my mom loved dancing, folk dancing, and so they loved the arts. They were a huge fan of Elvis Presley at the time, which was my mom loved Elvis, and hence the name. But we used to watch skating on television. There was tennis, there was skating, and there's a lot of different things. But skating was a big thing. And watching it on TV at around 2.5 years old, I pointed at the television. They finally took me when I was 4 or 5 years old. My neighbor, actually, Mrs. Watts, I called her Mitzi Watts, helped my mom find a place for me to go skating in Newmarket, Ontario. And I started around 5 years old, and basically the rest is history. That's how it basically started from that point on.
So, when did you actually decide that you wanted to, or your coaches wanted you to, like, get into the competitive side of skating?
Well, I started competing at a young age, anyways, just sort of at the club, and doing edge work, and then eventually, I think I did my first solo when I was 6. First little competitive solo in the I guess the club competition. From there, Anne Broughton, who was teaching me in Newmarket, uh, she told my mom that I need to go to a club. I had this talent that I need to go to a club that had a lot better skaters and have that around me, that environment. So that was when we basically made the big step in saying, okay, we can do something with this. And my parents and I, they were like, look, if you really want to do this, we're going to go to the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club and work with Mrs. Ellen Burka, the legendary Ellen Burka. And so we made the big jump. We were living in a farmhouse in Queensville, Ontario, just south of Keswick. The 405 the 404 wasn't like all the way up there yet. So my mom had to drive all the way down Leslie Street, and it took us a long time to get down in the mornings because I was on the ice at 5:30 in the morning. We moved there at 8 or 9 years old. And I was like wide-eyed. Everyone was doing triple jumps, and it was like, holy cow, this is a whole other world for me. But being around those great skaters, that was the point for me to really understand what it really took. And I was hell-bent and determined to become the best and see what these kids were doing. And I'm like, I want to do that. And so being around it, you just absorb it. And within a few years, I was catching up and starting competing at novice nationals. I was third, and then eventually going up the ladder. But being around those amazing skaters was the biggest thing. And it was my parents that said, if you really want to do this, we'll be behind you 100%. We're a team. Dad, had his landscaping company. And it was expensive to be at the club because we had to be members, and it was a big thing, but it was an amazing, that was a big stepping stone for me at that point. And that's when it kind of started changing, going from Newmarket to Toronto.
So, was mindset, did it play a big role in your life at that time? Do you remember like when that pivotal moment kind of stepped in and said, okay, if you're going to be on the big stage, the big skating stage, now we have to work on mindset? Did you ever have that issue where you really had to work on your mindset?
Um, Honestly, not really. I was a natural in understanding what it took. I hone the skills as we go on. Like when I started martial arts and started working with my instructor, Glenn Doyle, in Kung Fu, we honed the warrior aspect, and got rid of the unessentials and refined the mindset. And even to this day, when I'm doing acting, my instructor, Louis Bowmander, he never liked the mindset until he met me, and then we started working together, and then he asked me to teach classes with him, and it was about mindset because I put a different frame on it. And basically it's really about the simplicity of getting rid of the unessentials and things that you don't need, or anything that holds you back on your path to your goal. So cutting out the noise basically is simply put, when I teach, mentoring or teaching kids skating, hockey, martial arts, racing, acting, whatever it is, equestrian riding. I was mentoring a girl for equestrian riding as well, but it's all the mental side. Biggest thing is I ask the question, what's your goal in what you're doing? What's your ultimate goal? And the second question is, what are you afraid of? Because I can only take you as far as your fears will let me.
Wow, that's amazing.
And when I ask that question, I say, well, you don't have to tell me now, but this is because ultimately that is the deepest. You have to shave the layers down until you get to the core thing, and the core thing will ultimately be, a core issue of, afraid of success because of responsibility, afraid of failure because you don't want to fail, so you end up sabotaging yourself without
Yes.
really knowing it. You do it subconsciously because you're worried about, if I really give everything I have and I fail, then I'm not good enough. So the self-worth. So it really comes into those core facets. But with the goal being the mindset, really it's the set, it's the goal. How badly do you want the goal? Is it really what you want? Because ultimately, when you're at the worst, because we all get there, your willpower to go towards that goal will overpower a fear that's there. The motivation that may be lacking at the time, because we all have that. There's maybe 1 or 2 days maximum a month where you're like, everything is awesome, and then that's it. The rest is, I gotta do this again. It's unbelievable. There was a little while ago, it came up an interview with Michael Phelps, and how he won all these gold medals, one of the most decorated, I think he is the most decorated. on the planet. And before Olympics, he said he trained like 365 days in a row. Like there were days where he was like, he would give anything not to go in the pool, not to work out.
Wow.
But no matter what, even if it wasn't 100, his 100% that day might not be the same as 100% the next day, but he put 100% in that day. So every day there was something he was going towards his goal. And that's the obsession that it takes. So if your fear of like, oh, I don't know if I can do it, there's this and that, I'm like, okay, then your goal, you don't want it bad enough. And that's where the excuses come in, and that's where all that stuff comes in. So when I was growing up, and I was getting better, you'll get some support, but you'll also get pushback. I don't have the body type for it. I wasn't tall and lean. I was a hockey puck shape. I was too masculine. All these things were working against me. But they made me stronger because they kept testing my mindset on how badly I wanted it. If I would just let go and be like, oh, they're right, then I really didn't want it that much. So it's a test to see how badly you want something.
So do you think that those little adversities, which really aren't, Elvis, I know you know that, but do you think that that is what drove you to want to be on the other side of that fear? Because you knew you were kind of not the form of skater that everybody wanted to see, but yet everybody wanted to see you because of that. Like you were the goat, right? And I say that with what I mean
Oh,
by
thanks.
that. And yeah, but I think that's the reason why you were. And everybody was like, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't, you know, how did you deal with that? This isn't
I
your
just
typical.
Yeah, I just approached it differently. I didn't it took me a long time to blossom as an artist, because when it started opening up, I got attacked right away. And it was a test for me. Like it was really hard. There were certain commentators that attacked me directly, and right away at a very young age. And when you grow up as a teenager, formative years growing up in front of millions of people watching you and criticizing you and so forth. So it's a very difficult place to be. And I I used it. Yeah, there were times I was really mad and I was pissed off, but my mom always knew that when I really got mad and I got quiet, everybody gets some. I was ready to like get out there and do it. It didn't matter. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna do it. I don't care. And that's where it triggered, and that's where the will came in. And that was the thing. Everyone's like, you're really talented for skating, and I'm like, no, it was my willpower, because um it it was that to me has been always my gift, of how to dig deep, deal with pain, deal with all this stuff. And I'm like, no, my goal is more important. I don't care what's in front of my face. I'm not going to play the drama. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I don't care. I'll figure out a way, and I'll go and do it.
Well, just your form of skating alone is the fact of, you went out there and did it your way, kind of, like you made sure when you found your niche, which was, those beautiful edges and the fastness and everything like that, because you've always kind of been that way, Elvis, where you always wanted to go fast. And it obviously shows in what we're going to talk about next. But um, I think that that was your gift, and that's the reason why you were able to be amazing, because you went against the norm, and that's what made everybody say, "Wow."
I remember it was a really tough time. It was at a competition. I placed second again, and it was at nationals, and I was like four in a row, and I was packing my stuff, and Ushi Kessler, my choreographer at the time, and then was my coach after. Um, she knew, and she was like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm good. And she's, no, how are you feeling? And I was pretty down, and tears down my eyes, and I'm like frustrated. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. She goes, are you really? And then everything comes out. And she said to me, she asked me a question, and she goes, okay, I'm gonna ask you this question. and you're ready for this question. There's this, you have a choice now. Do you want to be a champion or do you want to be a legend? Because you can't have both. If you go for both, can only go for one. Because
Wow.
you have to give up being the champion. You gotta lose some major battles to become the legend, because the legend is a bigger thing. It's bigger than your, honestly, it's bigger than yourself, because you're trying to pave the way and be something different, something that, you got to face all the fears and go after that aspect of yourself. And if you can be the champion and go after just the win, that one win. And when you can become the legend, it's about not if you win, but how you win,
Mm-hmm.
and how it makes people feel. And we had this little discussion before we started recording. It's what people remember, the feeling they had when they watched me perform or watch someone perform something. There's a moment that you feel, and that feeling stays with you because it does something to you, because it's a core thing. And winning, yeah, you want to be the best, and you see that side of it. But when it goes to the legend, it goes deeper. There's a depth to it that's different, and you have to risk letting go of it all and losing it all in order to go that direction. And that's what she was trying to show me, that there's these times where you have to give it up to find who you are, and then you go down that path, and it's a different path, and you have to trust it. And there's that fear as well, like, what if I don't make it? What, I've given up because I've, risked trying the big jumps and going for it, making a difference, making a mark, being a cornerstone in the sport, instead of simply going as a, and there's great champions, not to take that away, but you come in and win and leave. But to do something to change the direction of a sport, or change the way people feel, to affect people on a whole other level, that's a whole different thing. And she said, you have the ability to do that. You have the potential to do that, but it's up to you to make that decision. And
Wow.
right. And that was like, when I was 19, I was like, wow.
Yeah. Ooh, this is deep.
Exactly.
This is a life decision, like you've come up against that in so many ways. So now, when did you start with the dirt biking or the dirt bike racing? Because that
Yeah.
was the next step.
Yeah, the next thing was dirt bikes. I never raced because my mom didn't want me to get hurt, number one, but she knew I loved motorsports like dearly. And our neighbor, Mrs. Watts, that took me skating for this first time, with my mom, her son raced dirt bikes. And they had a racetrack just down from the hill from where we used to live up here. I used to ride my bicycle, and there's like a not a cliff, but a hill, and I could see the track down below here across the street. And I used to watch, and Frankie would bring me down. I'd sit on his dirt bike, and eventually my parents got me a bike when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I
Oh,
would ride
wow.
on our dirt. We had like 50 acres, and there was a lot of trails and stuff. So I was playing around with that, and I was always intrigued with speed and momentum. And that was the thing, momentum and speed. And kids, like when I'm teaching skating, that's the biggest thing. They're afraid of momentum on the ice.
Okay.
It's because it's like controlling the uncontrollable in a way, because it's like when in a race car, I'm doing 260 270 kilometers an hour, and you're trying to control that momentum and that speed, because there's a moment where you're actually out of control. When you want to go fast around a circuit, you can't be controlled 100%. You have to allow everything to move. The car dances underneath you, the bike dances underneath you, and it's a blend of like the blade. When you're skating, it dances underneath you. If you're locked in the whole time, that's when you take a step. My wife Gladys asked me once, where are you at in your racing? Because I'd like to understand in those terms. And I said, well, there's a moment in your skating, I asked her, where you're locked in with the blade and you feel comfortable. But then there's a moment where you have to let go, where the blade actually has to slide and it moves underneath you. There's a different feel of the blade, and the way you skate and that movement, and it dances under you. Um, you're 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 controlling what is out of control because you have to let go in order for that to happen. And I said, that's where I'm getting to. I'm just starting that with the car, at slower speeds, but now with the speeds that are higher, you have to be able to have that nuance and that feel. And I've always been very, very sensitive on the blade, in my hands, dirt biking and all that. And I always had a feel of momentum and speed and what was happening around me. I could sense it. And it was just a natural thing. So I take those things into, when I was skating into biking and biking into the next thing, with the cars and stuff. But it was something that was always in something I always did. It was in conjunction with my skating. I would dirt bike in the summer, use that as training. I'd set up a track and do that. Racing was a whole other level. I didn't do any racing because that's pretty hardcore. If I got injured, and most guys that are pushing to be the best, they got broken bones and stuff. So I didn't risk that, but I just used it to a point where I understood and I could train hard, and it was there was a similarity and a difference, which made it refreshing. So it's like a fresh stick of gum. And that for me was great. And it allowed me to get my speed fix.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I love the way that you're kind of bridging it all together. It's the whole, philosophy of motion, if you
Yeah.
will. And that's wonderful because it ties together against or with all of it. You're skating, you're racing, so then I don't want to interrupt this whole moment of motion, but now there's acting. So let's talk about what part does that play in Elvis's plan or scheme? Is it
Yeah. I loved acting from when I first started. So right around the age of 10, I went to a school, private school, and the husband and wife team had kids from kindergarten to grade 8, and there's only like 33 kids in the schools, like Little House on the Prairie type of thing. And the husband, Mr. Sykes, Don Sykes, he wrote music and he also wrote the plays. And then once a year, all the kids would be in a play for the parents, and it was musical with all the kids, the kindergarten kids right up to grade 8. He'd write stories and comedy and stuff. And so I got a chance to be singing on stage, and my dad being a singer, that's how I started doing the acting thing on sort of the school amateur level. And then throughout, the 4 years that I was there till, grade 8, and then moved on. It was sort of formative time for me, which was nice. And I really enjoyed the acting. I loved the studying of the lines and the characters and things like that. And, getting up on stage without skates on. And, it was a very different, it was a different feel that way. But again, it relates to skating. When I started jumping into it more, I get some like cameo roles, like from 1999 on. I had like, the Ice Angel, and then I got a chance to play, it was uh, the movie Death to Smoochie, which is a dark comedy. And Danny DeVito wanted me to choreograph this big skating scene at the end where Robin Williams and Edward Norton's characters come together. And it's a dark comedy. And so it I had to work with Robin Williams. He didn't know how to skate, so he's wearing javelin shoes on the ice, and I had to skate, and they did all my footwork was then blended in the wonder of editing. And so they had me double for Robin. And then I had to do some of the stunt work because the stunt guys couldn't use the harnesses. So I was doing all this, and I had it, and I watched the shoot when they were shooting stuff with Robin and with Edward Norton. It was an incredible time. We shot that 2001, and it was at the old Maple Leaf Gardens. And we were there for, I don't know how long, shooting that thing. I was going for my last Olympics, but I had some training time during lunch, and they let me use the ice. And I had some really great conversations with Robin at the time about acting and what I loved about it. And you know, I was acting in a way, I wasn't doing any lines, but I was doubling for him and doing all of that. And then from there, there's a few other like cameo things that I ended up doing. And then when I got to play, I played Vince Fontaine in Greece. I did that in Toronto and Hamilton. But the big one was when I got the role of Billy Flynn in the show Chicago, and I did that one on stage in New York and in Toronto, with like
Wow.
only award-winning actors, and it was it was epically amazing. So for me, that was another stepping stone, and I started working with Louis Beaumander. I worked with a number of other acting coaches as well, but Louis was the guy that I really connected with in Toronto, and from there got an agent. Then we ended up doing Ice Girls, which was another a Netflix show, and then just Hudson and Rex, and then an episode here with Murdoch Mysteries, and became friends with Yannick Besson and John Reardon on all these great actors and so forth. So it started building, and had small parts in different things. And so that's been growing, and I started learning really quickly with Lewis, to the point where he was like, I really want you to come and teach with me. And I was like, really? This guy's taught like some of the best actors, like Keanu Reeves. You work with Keanu Reeves. Like, you want me to work with you? He goes, yeah, what you're doing is pretty amazing. You've learned basically in a fraction of the time what I usually teach over like a few years. You've done it in such a short period of time. Done it in like 6 months. Like, how do you do it? How'd you do it? And I told him about, the mindset of how I approach skating, and cut out all the noise and focus on what I need to get done. And because I've got most of those demons from skating, I know them. I know what was in there, the fears. I got rid of a lot of that. So that's one part of it. But the other part is to understand how I work. I knew how to get rid of the complexity of something, make it simple. And I just whittled it down. But I also worked. That was a point where I was working with him, where I was doing group classes, and then I was doing privates with him. So I went from group classes to privates, and he was working me one-on-one. And I knew the next time I had a class with him, if it was like I was getting it once a week, and that the next class he wouldn't bring up the little ism or something that we were working on. I didn't want him to bring it up. I wanted him to totally forget about it. You have to work on something else. And he even admitted later, he goes, man, you pushed me. He goes, you worked me. He goes, I had to find stuff to work on with you. And it was really cool. And so from there, he wanted me to work with him with his working actors. And it was really neat. We did a 2 runs of the course. I've been busy. I know we want to do it again. So we did it over 6 weeks, and it was really cool. We worked in tandem together on the course, and was in the room, and it was really cool, because I come from more physical, a very physical way, because I read energy from people, and I see where they're holding things in, working with former ballet dancers and former gymnasts and athletes, and other people that are nurses and people with like regular jobs that want to do this and have this art side that they want to explore. And I talked to them about, what was being held in them. And I loved the as Ushi used to say, the peeling of the onion, getting to the core thing. And that's what I always did. So the mindset was to get to the core thing that made it work. And if it worked in one thing, and that was real, it was truth, it worked in all things, which is law. So I figured out how to kind of what the core thing was on each thing I was working on, and then I just refine it. So that's what I love. That's what I love searching in myself. So it's that self-discovery that I ended up realizing that's the thing I love. And through the action of what I'm doing, I have that self-discovery. So whether it be racing, whether it be acting, whether it be skating, all of these things, they force you, if you want to be at the top level, they force you to look at yourself honestly and break away and get rid of the things that are not needed.
Wow, that's amazing. And yeah, the only other question that I have for you, and you've already said it like a million times, how important is it to have a coach? That's what I want to talk to you about, because a lot of people might not feel that that's important. but even a coach needs a coach.
The what I learned over the years is I got a good sense of finding the right coach, because there's some that we're always learning. Then don't get me wrong, we're like, even my Qigong, which was my instructor's instructor in Kung Fu, passing away at 96 years old, saying, boys, I'm even learning laying here in my hospital bed. So never stop learning. So you're always learning. You're always discovering something about yourself. So you're always that's the whole thing about being here. And I mean, having the right coach, you could go down. I don't want to say it's never a waste if you're with the wrong coach, because you actually learn how it's not supposed to be done, and then you could recognize the right coach. So it's one of those things where knowing what's right for you and how you work. Like, I spent time working with different coaches in acting, and then I was able to find one that worked with me, that was synergy, and that was Lewis and I. We connected. Even with Doug and I, like, yeah, and all the coaches that led up were great, but when Doug and I connected, that's where, and it was that part of my career where it took off. Even my martial art instructor, I was already a black belt when I met my instructor Glenn, and I had to, I had this base, but I knew I was missing something. I met him, and it changed my whole approach, and it was like a whole other level. And when you're ready for the right coach, they'll appear. And a coach is someone that helps you discover yourself. That's what a real coach does. Helps you discover who you are, and trusting who you are, and knowing how you work. And that's what a really good coach does.
That is so true. So, I mean, is there anything else what's next for Elvis?
Oh man, I'm still skating, doing acting, and the big thing is racing. I just finished a race down in Texas in COTA, Circuit of the Americas. I'm the ambassador for Revolution race cars out of the UK. They have a particular car that they build. They're built in the UK. It's a prototype car. They're pretty serious downforce cars. They're 500 horsepower, 1,700-pound carbon fiber, 280, 290 kilometer an hour cars. They're pretty serious. I got into one a few years ago, and I adapted like a duck to water, and loving it. So, my dream is to get to the pro ranks, and see how far I can go. And it's just a matter of just getting the training in. But the big thing with the racing is the dollars and cents. That's the tricky part with it. In any sport it is, but with motorsports, it's massive, because it takes a huge jump to be able to even just train.
Wow.
It's astronomical. So, I thank God Gladys supports me in this craziness, but she knows that I'm not just, playing car racer. I'm actually racing at a high level, and want to do something with it to be able to actually have a career in doing it. And it's half reinventing myself. It's another side of myself that's always been there. It's just I'm
Right.
embracing it now, as I'm at the stage in my life where I can actually do it, because I don't have to worry about the competition of skating. The acting's on the side, which is a great diverse way of expression, because I am an artist, and I love that part of acting, and that part of the growth. You understand a lot more about yourself too, which I'm always learning, which can apply to anything. And my skating got better when I was acting, and vice versa. Like, everything it feeds each other, and if you can find the common thing that links them, then you're onto something pretty special. And don't ever separate them. If you're doing different things, try to find the thing that connects them. And that's what I've been doing. But the racing is the next big step for me. We have a little break now till the winter, hopefully February-ish. I'll be down racing in Florida again in Sebring when the new season starts, and then doing tour with Stars on Ice for the winter. We'll be announcing the Canadian tour in the spring, which is pretty big, which is the spring tour, and then a bunch of other seminars, working with kids, with my wife, and I do those together, and doing club shows. A lot of the small clubs across Canada, I end up doing club shows and skating for them with the kids, and yeah, it's busy. It's really busy, but it's wonderful. I'm very blessed and grateful that I can still do it, and I'm in good shape, and I feel young. I mean, at my age, like, yeah, I'm still doing triple jumps, and I'm feeling good, and I feel very strong, stronger than I did even in my 20s, just because I've streamlined and learned different aspects of my body, and nutrition and things like that, and it's been awesome. So I'm very, very excited about what's coming.
Well, that sounds great. And of course, I'm going to have you back on the Mindset Playground with an update because we've just had so much to talk about and I've loved it. So it's been great reconnecting with you because we used to have some great conversations back on the road, but we're going to go back to that. But anyway, before I let you go, I always ask my guests for 3 golden nuggets to leave the audience with. So, what would your 3 golden nuggets be?
Okay. Well, I kind of gave one earlier, is ask the question. So in the thing you're doing, have a clear goal of what you want. It's got to be super, super clear and clean. It's got to be pure. It's got to be a pure thing. And you've got to want it so bad that you're willing to defend it against anyone. This is the core. This is the core thing. Second thing is you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. I remember saying this years ago before everyone else was saying it. Now people are saying it. I was the one that said it first. That was back in the day. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the only way you grow. Very few, there's never been a time when I was competing that I felt comfortable. Like the way I'm sitting here having a conversation. This is comfortable. But when I was competing, it was always uncomfortable. But I did have incredible moments where I was comfortable being in that state of it's happening through you, and you're like, oh, I'm floating, this is awesome, it's uncomfortable, whoa, and then you let go into it. That's when you're really connected with the skill that you are performing in working. You have to work it and work it, work it, get it to that point. But if you're uncomfortable, it's a good thing, then do it. Be uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then the third one, those first two, the third thing is, I'm not going to say finding out what the fear is. I'm going to put that one to the side. But I think the third thing is knowing, because it includes this, knowing yourself and how you learn. I wasn't a great kid in school. I didn't have the greatest marks. Could have worked harder, but it was very difficult for me. And that was super, super hard work. I got my marks. I went to university. I did 3 years of that. But I had to really, really work hard. For me, I had to physically do the thing and get it in my body. Like even learning choreography and things didn't come natural. I had to like physically do it. But once I understood my isms, once I understood how I thought, how I broke things down, I knew how to talk to the coach, and I knew how to talk to a teacher or an instructor about certain things and not feel self-conscious about it if I didn't get it right away. And this is a big one because a lot of people don't ask questions because they're afraid to ask the question because they don't want to look dumb or insecure. Again, those are fears, right? So it's to learn how you learn. And it's really important to understand this because you can cut out a lot of heartache and a lot of time wasted if you could spend on that part of it. To always be aware when you're working on something, the path of least resistance in a good way, not lazy, but taking the easy route. That's not it. It's the path of least resistance, being like water. Where if you don't have to bang your head against the wall, then don't. But finding the right way, and that is an understanding that takes time, and you have to break it down. So those are my 3 nuggets.
Well, those are great nuggets. And I got to tell you, I have interviewed so many wonderful people for this show, The Mindset Playground. And I love the fact that I myself get like a whole hour of coaching. It just puts me in such a great mood, and it just reinforces everything that I've been studying and everything I've been learning about myself.
Right.
So you are no different, Elvis. I have loved our conversation, and I have gotten so much from it. And I know that my audience will as well. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come out and play with me on the playground.
Well, thanks, LouAnne. Thanks for the invite. This is wonderful. Come back anytime. Please invite me. It'll be great. I got a few guests that you might want on here, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
And no, it was wonderful. Thanks. And thanks to the audience that are watching. And yeah, if there's any questions, just write in, and maybe LouAnne can write if the people are interested, and I can chime in and send some info.
Absolutely. I'll be your marketer again.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.